Speaking of racist behavior, a Black Tennessee mayor declares April as Confederate History Month. I'm gonna read that again. A Black Tennessee mayor declares April as Confederate History Month. We're going backwards, Livingston, Tennessee Mayor Courtesy Hayes signed the proclamation surrounded by members of the Sons of Confederate Veterans. Y'all see this? My goodness. Here's the caption that accompanied the photo. A contingent of compatriots with Sons of Veterans, Myers-Zollicoffer Camp 1990 recently met with Livingston Mayor Curtis Hayes for a signing of a proclamation designating April 2022 as Confederate History Month in the town of Livingston and urging all citizens to avail themselves of the opportunities to increase their knowledge of this important era of Tennessee's history. Celebrated in southern states, Confederate History Month began in 1994. Mississippi is the only southern state that officially declared April Confederate Heritage Month in 2022. Ooh, child. Okay, I don't know. Can I go to the panel? Okay, sorry, I'm breaking the third wall here. But I want to talk about these two Tennessee stories because, first of all, I looked up this mayor. He's nonpartisan. So I was going to drag him because being Republican, Democrat, he's nonpartisan. Some of you nonpartisan, you independents, y'all a little cray-cray too, okay? Don't think just because you not a political party that you off the hook, that you got it right, because this person didn't get it right. But I just think it's interesting with all this anti-CRT, we don't want to teach history, y'all want to teach Confederate history because y'all know y'all lost and y'all know y'all was fighting for slavery, right? So I'm trying to figure out why y'all are trying to talk about Confederate history, but you don't want to talk about American history. It doesn't make sense to me, but we know it's propaganda, right, Crystal? What do you have to say about this?
I just want to say, one, I'm a native Tennessean. I'm from Memphis, and I know Dr. Carr's brother lives in Nashville, and I've been on the panel with him before. But I want to just say it's so interesting that this first story where Senator Ackberry is up speaking about, the legislation that hopefully she likely co-sponsored. She's saying that she hopes that this gets passed and signed by Governor Bill Lee, which I don't have any faith in Governor Bill Lee, that he will actually sign that. So we have, this conversation about Black history on one hand, and then we have this other conversation where a Black mayor of a small town in Tennessee is essentially, I think we need to check and see if he was drugged. We need to check and see if he was given some kind of sedative to actually produce that proclamation, because I just don't believe that any person in their right mind would do that with all of those kinds of white supremacists standing behind him, draped in a Confederate flag. So my first question is, was the brother drugged? That's what I want to know to all the Tennesseans watching this and this broadcast. And I want to know why aren't people raising the flag about that? I'm looking at you, the Equity Alliance, Tequila and Charlene and all the Black folks who run, grassroots Black-led organizations in the state of Tennessee. Where are you all with raising the roof about this? This is ridiculous. But on the other hand, as it relates to critical race theory, isn't it ironic that we're living in a moment in history where people like, Governor Bill Lee, people like Governor Ron DeSantis, people like Governor Abbott down in Texas, they don't want critical race theory taught in schools, which we already know it's not.
Right.
But at the same time, you're having a mayor create a proclamation about the Confederate history. We're having to ask in codified language in state legislatures about Black history, but we're also saying we don't want to teach critical race theory. And so, this is just more continuation of foolishness that happens in Tennessee, unfortunately, and we're making headlines again for all the wrong reasons.
Well, to your point about drugs, white supremacy is a hell of a drug. And it don't have to be sniffed or snorted or you don't need a needle, nothing. You just look for it. That's it. But, it's giving me Clay and Bigsby because, that image, but Clay and Bigsby was at least blind. He didn't see that he was a Black man. You a Black man doing this kind of stuff. So that's very, very weird. Dr. Carr, you have roots in Tennessee as well. What's your reaction to both of these stories?
Well, I think it's very American. I'd like to congratulate Curtis Hayes Jr. Um, the drug that he is high on is called America. And I hated the sister to say that one day we might not need Black History Month. I mean, that's obviously absurd, but it's based on a fundamental misunderstanding of where we are in this settler state. And it's common to have that understanding, that misunderstanding. The Confederate States of America were traitors to the United States of America. And so, wait, oh, you know they weren't. Because after the war, their land was returned to them. That's where Black people got sold out in places like South Carolina and Mississippi. They are allowed, they're still allowed to celebrate their traitorous act as an act of patriotism. That's why the governor of Mississippi, Tate Reeves, with that bad Dollar General store mop on his head, was able to declare that the whole state Confederate celebration. And as you say, Crystal, I mean, we know that Memphis is Black as hell. And where I'm from, Nashville is Black enough for the white nationalists in the Tennessee legislature to try to slice and dice to continue this minority rule so they can make Tennessee the latest state in the South to join the ranks of Rhodesia and apartheid South Africa. But where this boy is from, Curtis Hayes Jr., is halfway between Nashville and Knoxville. I got family up in them hills near Silver Point and all that kind of stuff. Curtis Hayes lives in a city where it's about 4,000 people, and all but maybe 1 or 2% are Black. And talk about Black history. Listen, there are two types of ways to approach a multicultural education. One is called infusion. That's the Tennessee bill, and Lee might sign it. Why? Because if you understand education, you understand that signing a bill to mandate teaching doesn't translate into it being taught.
Right.
You see, standards don't translate into what happens in the classroom. The other way to do it is the independent standalone courses. You see, that's a different kind of war. So actually, Curtis Hayes would fit perfectly in executing that bill. Why? He is able to trace in that little town of Livingston, Tennessee, his great-great-great-grandmother who was formerly enslaved and is celebrated in that little town in Black history. He has won Black History Awards. He was the first Black Livingston Police Department member of the police department. He was the first Black sheriff, deputy sheriff. He married a white woman. He is the ultimate success. We just had a story about Craig Robinson, right? I mean, the point is this. What does assimilation look like? Assimilation, thy name is Curtis Hayes.
Well, Dr. Walker, you got to follow that. Sorry. What's your comment?
I want to think about one of our great rhymers of all time, Chuck D, when it once said, "Every brother ain't a brother," and that's pretty much for me summarizes. I mean, beyond the fact that was he drugged or not, where are his folks at to say don't do this? Yeah, that's the real question. Where are his people to say, listen, don't do this. This is a bad look. This photo, people will see this photo for forever, and that long after you're gone. And in terms of this, what's that happened in Tennessee in terms of signing this Black History bill? It's interesting because some of the same states are talking about everything is in CRT. I always feel like even if the bill is signed, somehow it's been voided because we say we can't talk about this because it's CRT and not Black history. Yeah. Right. It's just this weird contradiction in terms of what Dr. Carr talked about. And when it relates to race and how this United States, this country understands it, because it's either Black or white. It's not nuances in terms of race. So I don't know. Tennessee is getting like, where I'm in Florida and losing his mind and doing things that don't make any sense. So like I said, but, no shout out to the folks who didn't tell their brother not to sign that bill. His people didn't sit down and have a conversation with him. But hopefully he gets. I don't know if he gets invited to summertime. He may not even get invited to the picnic. So
yeah, like you said, where are his people at? Maybe his people need to be talked. They need to find the people for those people too, because maybe all y'all crazy. Because something is definitely not clicking over there.
He was drugged. I'm convinced he was drugged. I'm convinced.
Crystal is giving him the benefit of the doubt.
That man was drugged.
No Christmas dinner for him.
Well. See, it's just because this man been the mayor of that little town since 2006. He was 31 years old. Yeah. He was raised in a majority white. In other words, this raises the deeper question. What does it mean, if anything, to be Black? I don't even know. If we don't have a common definition, we can't get mad at him. He was groomed to do exactly what he's doing. He's a signing pen for the Confederate States of America. He was groomed for that.
I'm embarrassed today for the state of Tennessee. I'm embarrassed.
Well, we're going to focus on the positive. The positive is, got a little song, maybe Black history. But to Dr. Carr and to Dr. Walker's point, I mean, it's the first step, right? There has to go through this long review where parents get to give input into what they think should be included, yada, yada, yada. So it's years away from being implemented. But I do appreciate, because I think it's hard being a legislator, particularly a Black legislator in these red states that are really, and a lot of activists will say that they're not red per se, they're just under tapped into, you know, in terms of really, you know, exciting the electorate. You have people like Gary Chambers that's running, and he laid out the receipts in terms of the electorate and what it can look like if Black folks voted. So I think, you know, it's hard to be up against so much, but they still try to do things like that. So I'm going to salute the legislators who got this version passed. It may not be, you know, Black Panther, fist held up high type of, you know, education, but it'll be more than what they had before. So keep working at it, and that's great.
And can I just say one more thing, Reese? Dr. Carr, I'm going to talk to Ramesh about doing away with Black history. We were going to always need Black history. But I know Senator Ackberry, and so I'll just remind her about that language and how it's not helpful. But I understand why she, you know, put this legislation forward. But the doing away with Black history, we always need Black history, more of it.
Appreciate you, sis. Yeah,
I agree.
I know you are. I know you are.
Well, like
yes,
I told Jane Elliott.
I'll be texting her after this.
Right. Well, I remember when Jane Elliott was on the show with CJ, Dr. Carr, you probably remember this, CJ Pearson was on, and she said, we need to all give up our titles. I said, nah, I'm going to always be Black. Y'all can give up white, but I'm going to always be Black. So yes, we're going to always need Black history, point blank, end of period. We celebrate it every day. We don't need a curriculum, but thank you anyway for your advocacy and getting it into the curriculum.
All right, folks, back to that Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay Black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now. We have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?